Hey, Wall Street winners. Today is Monday, March the 4th, and we are pre-market. It's about 7:35 Eastern Time, so about 2 hours prior to market open. And what we're seeing right now is that crude is off pre-market about 54 cents. Um, We've got the NASDAQ futures up very little at about 6 points, 6.25 points above or into the green. We have the VIX, which is the volatility index 30 days out at 13.51, which is extremely low and definitely on the low side. And as we go into the day and we look at some of the pre-market valuations, what we see as we cruise through retail is we've got a few things up and a few things down, not a great deal of movement in retail and healthcare pre-market. We've got a little bit of activity in transport, particularly with JB Hunt, which is up about $3, which is 1.5% pre-market. So that's an interesting move. I personally think both of these stocks, JB Hunt and CNR, are overvalued and due for a correction. But we're not seeing that in the market. So I'm just been staying away from transport in general. If we move down into oil, which is a sector that I really like and seems to have returned a great deal of profits to us this year, we've got ED, which came back up into the 87 range. So it's only off a penny right now pre-market. If we do see, we have seen it open some big moves in this, and big moves being 0.5% to 1%. But I mean, that's a pretty nice little return if you can capture it on a daily basis or even multiple times throughout the day. So if you do see ED pop back down into the low 86s, I think it's a really solid add to one's portfolio and something that you can probably get out of in the mid or high 86s if you were to get in the low 86s like last week. So I mean, if we look at the 5 day here last week, you can see that ED on Friday morning opened much lower, down under 86, so 85, 85, and then finished the day or finished the week close to 87. So again, you're looking at a dollar and change in profit depending on when you buy in and when you exit. But that's a good little swing for a very stable utility type stock that has a good dividend should you get into a point where it falls a few dollars and you have to hold it for, say, a quarter or 2 quarters, you're going to get a nice little dividend on that. If we scroll down here, you'll see the forward dividend's 3.82%. Now, if you're Canadian and it's a US dividend, it's not as advantageous tax-wise, but it's still 3.82%. So now if we go back to oil, we can see Valero is off a dollar. I'm not going to get back into Valero in the 140 range unless I see it stay within that range for at least a week, if not a little bit longer. I'm going to wait for it to pull back into the 138 range. And then I think that it has a little bit more potential for some attractive profits in the short term. I do think it's a great long-term hold, but I would hold off. I think there's a better entry point on that stock. I think if you're in Exxon, I think it has some potential to continue to move up, probably into the high 108, 109, maybe 110 range. And then if it gets there, it could break north of 110. But I don't think it's going to do that anytime soon, especially with crude off a little bit today. MRO has really been a dog for most of the year or the last year, not just 2024. So at 24.60, it's on the higher side of what we've seen it at in the last 3 months. So if you're into that and you have some, I would hold it. If you're not, I wouldn't be adding any of that to the portfolio. One of the ones we've been watching, CVE in Canada, Cenovus Energy, it's doing quite well. I still think it's an attractive buy at $24. They've got, I believe they have an earnings call this week, if not today. So if you wanted to participate in that and have a look at that, you could hear what management's talking about. And then we roll into tech. And I think there's always a ton of opportunities in tech. And tech is definitely one of your more risky areas. So if you have the ability to be in it For the longer term, a little bit better. If you're just trying to make some short daily or weekly wins, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. The ones that I would be looking for, I'd be looking at Palo Alto, PANW. If it drops down into the low 290s, I think it's a super attractive purchase because it's come off some bad earnings, but it is expecting to see some increase in government contracts, which is one of the things that was part of its forecast discussion and outlook that it didn't see happen in the previous quarter that it was kind of counting on. I do like Cloudflare, but I think it will drop down to the low 90s. And I think it's got a lot of potential, particularly pre-next earnings. So you're about 3 months out on that one. So again, there's great entry points, but maybe not today. ARM, if you want to get into some of these semis and then out quickly, I think ARM certainly has the volatility to allow you to make some money on a daily, hourly, or minutely basis. But it is on the higher risk of things or the higher risk side of things. AMD is another one. All of these semiconductor and chip manufacturing companies are getting lifted really thanks to NVIDIA and what's going on with the AI narrative. But there are some that are being lifted that probably aren't going to see the same type of benefit. So you don't probably want to be buying these for the long term and not expecting that they're going to come off their highs at some point in the next month or two. If we scroll down, another one that I really like that's off $12 pre-market. So I'll be watching this one today is Workday, Wday, software company for HR and employee management. This is a tool that I've worked with in a past employer. Fabulous platform, very, very, well, it's becoming now a profitable company. If we take a look at the chart and we look at the financials, you can see that it returned its not its first quarter, but its first significant quarter of profits. So with any SaaS company, you have to get past that tipping point, and I think it looks like they're maybe at that or just past the tipping point, and then the profits tend to accelerate. And that's going to do wonders for the stock price. This has been a pretty solid and attractive stock to own over the last 3 to 5 years. So that would be one that you could look at adding a position in to your portfolio. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, Meta, super strong, again, part of a bubble, but their cash flow and revenue generation are just really the best in the industry. And then the other that's going to come out next week with earnings that I like is Adobe. I think that Adobe is highly likely to get back to the 630, 650 range in the next 2 weeks. So that's a pretty attractive purchase right now at 570. And certainly if it dips down to 560 or 550 where it's been recently, an even more attractive purchase. And then the one above it, Google. I just think there's very little that can derail the success of Google, even AI, because it really is an AI company, although people may not be viewing it that way with the amount of data that it has access to. And 138 is a super attractive price. I think it'll easily, in the next couple of weeks, get back up into the mid 140s, depending on what the rest of the market does. The other one that's kind of done really well in the financials is SoFi. I have not bought into this. I regret that, but I think it will come back down into the $7 range where I think I will make a purchase. At $9, it's a little on the high or expensive side, but it's got a ton of potential. I don't think it's an unattractive price. I just think you may have to hold that for a longer period of time. And it doesn't seem to have the volatility that some of the other stocks do. And then I'm really staying away from most of the other financials because I do expect that with interest rates still undecided on what the Fed's going to do. We're going to see Bank of Canada this week come out with a rate announcement, and maybe they'll cut, maybe they won't. So we'll see that Wednesday. And we're waiting on some Fed notes and discussion from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell this week. So we'll get those, and I believe he's testifying in front of the Senate or in front of Congress. So we'll see what comes out of that. discussion. But I'm holding kind of steady on these, not buying in, and I've sold most of my financial positions at this point as we await that. So good luck in your trading day today. Minimize your risks, maximize your profits, and good luck with your trades.